11 of the deadliest zombie bosses. Let's go.
Years ago, I did research for a World War II movie. I came across some old Nazi documents. I couldn't believe what I was reading.
George Romero is the boss zombie in Call of the Dead, and upon taking an entire movie crew along with Danny Trejo, Robert Englund, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Michael Rooker to an abandoned Nazi Siberian outpost, they would eventually get overrun by the dead. And honestly, I think it's more interesting to hear this directly from George Romero.
Element 115, necromancers, raising the dead, real creepy stuff. Coolest thing? Some of that crazy shit happened right here.
So as they are filming this movie, a lone zombie would scramble on set and pick up the gigantic 6'4" George Romero and take him away and turn him into a zombie. But not just any zombie, the godfather of all zombies. I mean, just imagine any 6'4" dude chasing you around. That's gotta be terrifying. Now, George Romero is probably known for having some of the most insane health. When it comes to how much health he has, it actually is indicated by how many players are in the game. It will go up by 250,000 for every player. So if you only have one player in the map, it will be 250,000. If you have 2 players, it'll be 500,000, 3 players, 750,000, and if you have 4 players, he will have 1,000,000 total points of health. So it's definitely safe to say he is one of the most tanky boss zombies we have ever seen. And even though George Romero has essentially been turned into this huge lunking zombie, he still is kind of there. After he has been in his rage state and has tried to attack you and you are able to calm him down, sometimes you can hear the actual George Romero that's still in there very shakily talking and saying, I'm okay, I'm okay. Or what seems to be him trying to talk himself out of it or trying to regain whatever sanity that he still has left.
Oh my God, what have I done? Please, forgive me. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Now, speaking of his calm state, George Romero does have 2 different versions. You have the calm and the berserk. The calm one is the one that will follow you around the map very slowly and very menacingly. And when that fog rolls in and all you can see is the glow of him and you hear these creepy voice lines, it's absolutely terrifying. Or if you do damage him at some point, he will turn into his berserk mode, where he will chase you down and try to swing at you with his stage light. And while he is in this berserk state, his entire appearance completely changes and becomes more like a rotting zombie. And the only way to calm him down is to get him into a body of water or shoot him with the VR11, whether unpack punched or pack punched. Preferably pack punched, so that way he goes away. Now, if you are able to successfully kill him, you will actually get a really good reward. If you have not done the Easter egg, you will get a free perk and the death machine. But if you have completed the Easter egg, you will not only get a free perk, you will also get the Wonderwolf drop, which for a map that doesn't have a wonder weapon that does infinite damage, this is actually pretty good. Now, the downside of this is the Wonderwolf only does 1 point of damage to George. Even though it does infinite amount of damage to zombies, it only does 1 point to him, so George stays winning. Now, some of the better weapons to use against George are definitely going to be the sniper rifles, especially if you shoot for the face. Going for headshots with the upgraded Dragunov or L96, in my opinion, is one of the fastest ways to kill him. And you'll notice that you are getting closer and closer to actually killing him by looking at his light. Originally, it starts off just being a nice blue glow, but as you get closer and closer to taking him out, it will slowly start to blink orange more and more. Now, just make sure that if you are trying to kill him and you're playing with more people, that you're not doing it during the middle of the round, because when you do damage him, he will scream out and shake the screen and cause everybody to slow down for a couple seconds, which may or may not piss your friends off. If you were thinking maybe an insta-kill or a nuke will affect him, well, you should think again, because the insta-kill will do absolutely nothing, and the nuke will only make him laugh. Pause. Now, there is no sponsor for this video, so I do have to shout out my plush. We have the official Crazy Rabbit plushie. It is my mascot for the channel. Who doesn't love bunny girls? It is now for sale. Tons of awesome people have already pre-ordered it, and if you thought you were too late, well, think again, you can finally buy it now. Link will be down there below in the description, and make sure to get it before it's gone forever, because once it's gone, I don't think it's coming back. So support the channel, get the plush while you still can. Who does not love bunny girls? The Megatons are referred to as an elite class enemy in Black Ops Cold War, being created by a human being exposed to dark ether particles, which for all you old heads like me is pretty much the modern day 115. The Megatons are extremely muscular zombies that are just coated in radiation that seem to remind me a lot of a glowing one from Fallout. Wearing a heavily damaged orange hazmat suit with patches of the Omega group, and having a very audible Geiger counter noise, it would be very hard to miss this guy. Now, not only are the Megatons extremely tanky, but they also have multiple phases. The first one is the big muscular one. Not only can they lob radiation at you that will damage you, and leave an impact zone that deals lingering damage and ignores armor, they can also get into melee range and deal 125 damage per hit. All this while they can be very tanky. But upon what you would believe to be killing it, that's not the case. The Megaton will become invincible for a couple seconds and split into two forms, the Megaton Bomber and the Megaton Blaster. And each of these forms behave a little different, and they are both, yes, still kinda tanky. The bombers will throw singular bombs, while the blasters will fire more fast shots, and yes, they both still have the Megaton's melee strength. Despite how skinny they look, you might want to stay away. Now, Megatons, especially in early rounds, are very painful to deal with, but as you get more and more set up, they become a little bit easier to deal with. If you have dead wire on your weapons, you will find that you do a little bit more damage to them. And if you have the Ring of Fire activated with it almost all the way upgraded, you will find that going for headshots, you might absolutely melt the Megatons. Now, if you absolutely just hate dealing with them, you can kind of keep them away from spawning in for a bit. They will actually only spawn in 2 rounds after you have Pack-a-Punch, or up until round 15, depending on which comes first. So you do get a little bit of breathing room to get set up and get prepared for these guys to come in, because they're absolutely going to wreck your shit. The Thrasher is a result of the infamous Division 9 experimenting on helpless people, trying to create the ultimate super soldier. The Thrasher is a heavily mutated creature with spores all over its body, with it appearing to have been grown out of the ground, with its arms and legs being interwoven with branches. While also having a very small face in proportion to its body, it does have a quote-unquote second mouth in their stomach, which is used to devour zombies or even downed players. And if their appearance alone isn't enough to scare you, then their strength definitely will, being able to one-shot you with a melee attack without Chug, and able to two-shot you even if you do have Chug. And very similar to George Romero, they also have a berserk state, where they will start to glow red, become way more aggressive, and start running much faster. And even if you think you got far enough away from them, well, you better think again, because if they are not around any player, they will dig underground and try to pop up next to you. And even if you do start to injure them, they can actually devour nearby zombies and regenerate. And if you're not playing solo and they run up next to one of your down teammates, well, they're also gonna eat them. And the only way to revive your friend would be to take care of the Thrasher itself. Now, the Thrashers are definitely deadly, but as you get more and more set up on the map, they start to become less and less of a concern. One way to actually limit the amount of Thrashers you're gonna get is to get rid of all of these spores that you can see around the map, and make sure no zombies walk through them. This will decrease the amount of Thrashers that you see spawning in. Or if you do have the KT-4, a fully charged shot is capable of killing them just straight up. And the Skull of Nansapwee's Vaporize attack will also kill the Thrashers pretty fast. But say you don't have any of that. I found that shotguns or the dual-wield marshals are very effective. As long as you aim for any of the numerous spores that are on the Thrasher's body, you're going to find that it's not that difficult of a boss zombie to deal with once you start to get more and more set up. But still, with the amount of strength that they have, and the ability to emit this spore-like fungus around you that's going to make you cough and unable to run, they can be very deadly. But them being deadly isn't all a bad thing, because you can spawn in a friendly Thrasher. All you're going to have to do is find a hidden spore on the map, and to do this you're going to want to head into the test subject's room in the bunker, and you're going to want to use the Skull of Nansapwee's Mesmerize attack on this wall. After doing so, you're going to see a spore behind a couple branches. You want to shoot those branches with the upgraded KT-4, and then bring a zombie around the spore and have him turn into a Thrasher. And you will notice that he has this weird glow and aura around him, indicating that he is actually a friendly Thrasher. Now, he's not going to be permanent, he will eventually go away, but still, having this lumbering, swamp-infected monstrosity on your side for once is actually pretty good. Man, did you think the jumping jacks on Die Rise were annoying? Well, let me introduce you to the Nosferatu, or the vampires from Black Ops 4. being inspired from more old school vampire takes and not the modern sexy ones that you see all the time. Having glowing eyes, sharp teeth, long claws, and a very just horrible skin complexion, these vampires have to be some of the most mobile and aggressive zombies we have seen to date. And being hit by one will cause your scream to become bloodied and you will temporarily stop regenerating health. And it's not like there's just one that spawns in on the map. That's funny. There are multiple. And to make things even worse, they even have a bat form, so now you have to not only look at the ground, now you gotta keep your eyes in the air. And if you thought the regular ones were annoying, there's even a stronger version that appears way later into the rounds. And this is the Crimson Nosferatu, or the Crimson Vampire, whatever you wish to call it. With a much darker and redder complexion and brighter eyes than the regular vampire, once you have opened up the coffin in the cemetery or have reached round 35, that is when they will start spawning in. And they act very similar to the regular vampires, but are faster and they deal more damage and are much stronger and are also unaffected by insta-kill. And if they are close enough to you, they will also latch onto you and bite you, dealing way more damage. Now, if you are getting very sick of these vampires constantly jumping up on you, there is a weapon that you can get called the Steak Knife, which is capable of killing regular zombies up until 26, but will always be lethal against the regular vampires and the Crimson ones. But I feel like even with the Steak Knife, just the amount of vampires that constantly spawn in, it's just way too much. But I will give Treyarch some credit. We've seen a lot of tanky boss zombies, but it's not every day that you see a bunch of fast, kind of more on the squishy side zombies that are just plain annoying. The Margwa would be a monstrous, abominational love child between Cerberus and an octopus, standing at what appears to be like 7 feet tall and being hulkingly big, while being covered in tentacles and spikes, having 3 heads just filled with teeth and no eyes. It's a miracle that this thing can even get around the map. And very similar to a lot of other very large boss zombies, it does have a very powerful melee attack. Its regular old swipe attack is very similar to that of a normal zombie, but its slam attack is where it's most powerful. Its slam attack is able to one-shot you without Jug and bring you pretty next to death with Jug. And with the Margwa being almost invincible, with you only being able to actually defeat it by shooting its heads, but you can only shoot the head that's glowing. If you shoot the other ones, nothing happens. And with each head that you do destroy, there is a benefit. You will get 500 points, but a parasite will also spawn in and it's going to start charging at you a little bit faster. And don't think just because you got far enough away that it's gone. It does have a teleport ability very similar to the Thrasher, so it's always going to be hot on your trail. Now, really the only, I guess, good side about the Margwas would be that when they do first spawn in, they aren't that fast and they kind of just linger around. And they don't really have a ranged attack, so you don't have to worry about anything like that. That is unless you were to get to Revelations, where you get a couple of unique Margwas. You have the Fire Margwa, which has an orange reddish glow to it. And when it does its slam attack, it's able to produce a burst of fire that has a homing beacon set right on your ass, so it's coming for you. There's also the Void Margwa, which emits a purple bluish glow, and when it does its slam attack, it will produce a portal which opens up these skulls very similar to the ones that you would see in a Horizon track, and they will attack and stun you. Now say you are on Revelations and you're just absolutely tired of dealing with all these Margwas, you can acquire the Margwa head. To do this, you're going to want to kill one of every type of Margwa, the regular, the fire, and the void. And you have to use a regular weapon. You cannot use any type of wonder weapon. That will pretty much invalidate it. And upon receiving the Margwa head, you will get 50% damage reduction from all Margwa attacks. You will deal 30% more damage to Margwas, and you will get a sprint duration increase. And it also has a hidden effect, where you will receive no damage or get stunned when you get hit by the Void Margwa's flying skulls. So to sum up, as long as you keep your distance from the Margwas, they won't WWE slam your ass into the ground. You know a boss zombie is infamous when there's an entire meme about it spawning in on round 8. The Panzer Soldat was created by Dr. Edward Richthofen in an effort to excavate more 115. They needed something a little bit better than just dudes with pickaxes. So Edward Richthofen created the Panzer Soldat. Well, he actually created 2, the one you see in Origins and the one you see in Black Ops 3. But the one you see in Origins was actually just meant to mine, and the one in Black Ops 3 was meant for war. But for some reason, it seems like the one in Black Ops 2 is just a tiny bit deadlier. I don't know why on earth a mining robot would need a claw that shoots out and grabs you and brings you to it and a flamethrower, but heaven forbid I'm not a scientist. But upon mining in Origins, they would come across many other wonders other than 115. And eventually, as they are researching this all, the 115 would slowly start to turn everybody into zombies. And it appears that the Panzer Soldat's suit operators were not immune from the 115 corruption, and they would all be turned into zombies piloting a giant robot that is destined to fuck you up. And if you haven't guessed by now, be careful because they do spawn in on round 8, and if you are not ready by round 8, say you went down or say you got a bad box luck, you're screwed. Having not only a flamethrower attack, but also having a very powerful melee attack, which can down you with Jug in just 2 hits and without Jug 1 hit, it's definitely not something you want to fight up close. And also, it seems to have a homing beacon with its ranged attack. It will shoot out a claw, grab you, and bring you back. And you better hope when it grabs you, you're able to shoot that glowing orb fast enough, because if not, it's almost a guaranteed death sentence, especially if there are multiple zombies still left on the map. Even if there's not zombies left on the map, that flamethrower will mess you up. Now, adding all of those different attacks to it is fair enough, but it's also pretty tanky. Now, it's not George Romero or anything like that, but it still can take a fair amount. And unless you have like one of the stabs or anything, it's gonna be a fight. Now, there are a couple things that you can do to even the odds a little bit. Number one, you can have the giant robots actually step on them. If one of the giant robots is able to step on the Panzer, it will put half of the Panzer in the ground and keep it there for a short period of time, allowing you to just go to town on it. Or if you really just don't want to deal with it for a couple seconds and catch your breath, if you take the tank, the Panzer will just fly off into space until you are done. Or if you just really don't want to ever deal with the Panzers, if you head to the crazy place, you will never have to deal with one ever again. That is until you leave it, and then once you leave, it's going to be waiting there for you, ready to rock your shit. If there is any advice you could ever receive for attacking a Panzer, just get the strongest weapon you can, and aim for the face or the glowing bits, and pray. Before we continue this video, we do have to shout out my beloved Patreons. Patreons get videos early, and they get access to my Discord, where they can harass me 24/7. We got Brian Hahn, Person, Fat Lucky Potato, Icy Storm, B-Rad the Man, Giovanni Diaz, Mayall, G-Dice Smackdown, Forg, Ty Mulan, Henry Heiberg, and Money Shot. If you would like to be a Patreon supporter, link is right down there below in the description. Back to the video. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of getting annoyed with just every new like boss zombie kind of just looking like the Blightfather. Like kind of just having that same look and texture to it of just being like skin and muscle and that's it. I don't know, it's kind of getting annoying. I kind of liked back when like the boss zombies were very, very unique and different, and now I feel like they all just kind of are starting to look the same. But that's my opinion. The Blightfathers were in Black Ops 4. Do you guys remember when they were in the Battle Royale for Black Ops 4? They were deadly in that. So now just imagine how they are in zombies. Now, not spawning in until round 15, so you do have some time to prepare until they actually do spawn in. But once they start spawning in, they cannot be stopped. Like the Catalyst zombies, the Blightfather will spawn in from a standard zombie. But unlike the Catalyst zombies, once that starts, you cannot stop it unless you have a very well-timed nuke. But if you are unable to time everything just right, now you have a long-legged Daddy Longlegs Blightfather to deal with, who is going to have a numerous amount of attacks. Of course, you have your standard melee attack, but you also have a vomit attack, and a ranged grabbing attack very similar to the Panzer, where it will stick out its tongue and pull you towards it. Now, I guess one of the good aspects of this is because they're so big and tall, it's very easy to see their weak points. The sacks that are on their back are going to be what you want to aim for. But it's not going to be as easy as pointing and shooting because, of course, with a lot of other boss zombies, it's going to have some health and it's going to take you some time. Now, you can't always rely on some of your specialist weapons. If you take one of the melee ones to it, it might take you like around 10 hits to actually kill it. But that can be kind of dangerous because its melee attacks can very quickly get rid of almost all of your armor. So getting up close and personal to it and trying to spam kill it might not work half the time. Now, if you really want to deal with the Blightfather, the best weapon in Black Ops 4 is arguably the Helion Salvo. It can take out a Blightfather in only a couple of shots. Now, if you also thought the Blightfather couldn't get any more annoying, it also has an ability where it can disable like utilities, like wall weapons and doors and things like that by vomiting on them. And then you will have to pay points to remove the vomit, essentially making whatever you wanted to buy cost a little bit more. Now, as long as you can kind of avoid getting grabbed by its tongue and pulled in, very similar to the Panzer, you really shouldn't have too difficult of a time getting rid of this. But if you're not ready by the time you hit round 15, then you may be in for a little surprise. The Astronaut zombie, in my opinion, has to be one of the creepiest bosses we've ever seen. There's something just terrifying about a humanoid creature slowly coming after you, never picking up its pace and never saying a word, other than the weird noises that can be heard from it. With it behaving oddly humanoid, but showing no emotion and no face, not knowing what's underneath the mask, I don't know about you, but that kinda gives me the heebie-jeebies. In Black Ops 4, we learned that the astronaut zombies were actually failed attempts by Dr. Schuster in sending astronauts to Griffin Station to establish a link from Groom Lake on the map Classified. And that would probably explain why the astronaut constantly has different names. If you are playing on solo, the name will be chosen from a predetermined list. But let's say you're playing on Xbox 360 and you're playing with a group of people, whoever is the host, the astronaut's name will randomly be picked from that player's friends list. So the whole thing with Schuster testing with different astronauts is actually a pretty good explanation as to why the astronaut has many different names. Now the astronaut zombie may not be fast, but it makes up for it in having one unique ability. If he is able to grab onto you, he's not only going to teleport you, but he is going to steal one of your perks. And for some reason, whenever I play, he always goes after Jug. I don't know why. He doesn't go after your first one or your last one. He will pick whatever perk he feels like getting at random and just take it to screw you over. Let's say you are able to kill the astronaut zombie, a small explosion very similar to the QED will appear and send anything near it flying. But being able to do that is not going to last you very long because his health does scale per round and with the amount of players that are actually in. So eventually it's going to get to the point where you're just unable to kill him. With the astronaut's base health being 4 times that of a regular zombie, multiplying it by the amount of players and multiplying it by the round, his health is going to scale very, very fast. And with him being immune to the wave gun, insta-kill, and nukes, there's not too much that's going to affect him. Now there is a saving grace. There is a glitch that you can do that will temporarily / forever disable the astronaut if you're able to do it correctly. You will have to kill him first, and that can be pretty easy. If he spawns in on round 1, 2, or 3, he's only going to keep that same health. So if he spawns in on round 1 and you do not kill him, and say you're on round 15, he will still have round 1 astronaut health. So leave him alive for a little bit, take him to the biodome, kill him. Or really kill him wherever. But when the next round starts, you want to be jumping around on the jump pads in the biodome. And your goal is to have the astronaut spawn in while you're doing this. If you're able to do it successfully, he will be stuck in one spot and dancing around. Just don't get too close or throw a Gersh device next to him because that's going to mess it all up. The Abominations in Black Ops 6 are just icing on the cake with everything that is just constantly trying to murder you in this game. Spawning in around round 15, you better hope that you're ready because they will be able to take a lot of bullets. They are essentially just a bullet sponge on a map that can shoot at you from far away. Looking like that one 3-headed dog that never gets adopted at the pound, once they spawn in, they're going to come straight for you. Eventually, one of their heads will open up and start glowing, and that's your cue to constantly shoot at it. Now, even if you miss, you will still do damage to it, but a significantly less amount. And once it starts shooting its little electric beam at you, even if you take cover behind some things, I feel like half the time I'm still getting hit with it, and that beam is very, very strong. Now, if you're just using guns, like say you don't really want to use like the chopper gunner or like the mutant injection or anything like that, if you just want to use some firearms on it, I've found that shotguns or snipers or anything that does a lot of damage, like with one shot, is more preferable. I'm not that accurate when it comes to other weapons. And if you get like one of the double upgrade abilities like the napalm or something, that will definitely increase your chances. Even if it's just like the cryo one, you definitely want something on there to help you out. And just a little extra help, insta kills will also affect them. Now they're not going to instantly die, but you will do a significant more amount of damage. So when you look at it like at face value, Abominations are very difficult to deal with. But when you add in everything else that's on the map, double upgrades, field upgrades, kill streaks, insta kills, and everything else that's on the map, Abominations are still difficult to deal with, and you should probably focus on getting rid of them first, but they're not as impossible as it seems. You just have to remember while you're playing that your gun isn't the only weapon and the only tool that you have. There are other things on the map that you can use to help you out. Brutus, or the Warden of Alcatraz, was just a simple man that would soon become under the influence of the Shadow Man. Under the influence of the Apothecans, he would soon construct the Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, and would be contacted by the Shadow Man to execute 4 mobsters, Salvatore Sal DeLuca, Michael Finn O'Leary, Billy Hansen, and Albert Weasel Arlington, in order to transform the island into a pocket dimension, in which the Shadow Man wanted to use to imprison Primus Richthofen. And after following with the Shadow Mans once and executing the mobsters, The warden was then instructed to follow them by electrocuting himself. And on the night he was going to Minecraft himself, the FBI would soon come a-knocking about all of the injustice that was committed on the island. But before the FBI could come into his house and shoot his dog, the warden would pull the lever crunk and end up Minecraft unaliving himself, which would transfer him to the Alcatraz pocket dimension in order to prevent the 4 mobsters from escaping. And this is where he would gain his Brutus form, given to him by the Shadow Man. And after the events of the Blood of the Dead Easter egg, Brutus is essentially destroyed once and for all. Now I'll try to give you like the brief summary of that. There's plenty of other videos that dive way deeper into that, but that's essentially the background. Now you will know Brutus is getting ready to spawn in when you hear this audio cue. This will give you a little bit of time to prepare before Brutus is officially on the map. And you'll know he is quite near when the ground starts shaking. I don't know how much this man weighs, but apparently it's enough to shake the entire planet. And say that there is more than one Brutus on the map, well guess what? You don't need eyesight, now the screen is going to shake extra hard. This is one of the worst features of Brutus, and why I think he's very, very deadly. I cannot stand the shaking, and it's very, very annoying. Now, very similar to a lot of other boss zombies, you will not receive any points from shooting him, but you will get some points for shooting off his helmet. You will gain 250 points when you shoot off his helmet, and you will gain 750 when you are able to kill him. And because Treyarch is so generous, every other player will gain 500 points. Now, of course, headshots are the way to go with Brutus, but once you do shoot off his helmet, he's going to drop a smoke grenade and try to vanish inside of the smoke. The smoke will last for about 20 to 30 seconds, but I don't think Treyarch really got smoke technology down yet, because it's really not that big of a deal. Now, Brutus really doesn't have that much health. Yes, he is more powerful than like a regular zombie and majority of other zombies, but he's not like on George Romero health or anything. He is much faster, but his health is not up there. What makes him so deadly is one, not only the screen shaking, but multiple can be on the map at once, and also he can lock things down, very similar to the Blightfather. If he runs by a perk machine, a workbench, a mystery box, or the plane, he can disable it and lock it, and the only way you're going to be able to unlock it is to pay 2,000 points. And if you thought that was bad, say he locks it again, well guess what, that's going to increase by 2,000 points again, and it's going to cost you even more. So letting a Brutus roam around the map for too long can definitely add up and set you back. So once Brutus is on the map, you want to deal with him as quickly as possible. And if you thought using the acid trap or the fan trap was going to do anything, well, guess what? He's just going to run up to it and disable it, even while it's still active, so those are not much use to you. Now, like I said earlier, he's not too big of a hassle to deal with. It's just the extra things that he does that makes him very deadly in my opinion. But if you want to deal with him now instead of later, some of the best weapons to use are definitely going to be the Blundergat. Any variation of it can take out Brutus relatively quick, especially just the regular Blundergat upgraded. That thing can take him out in a shot or two. And hell, even having the Hell's Retriever or Redeemer is also very effective against him. But man, it's just like that screen shaking and having 4 Brutuses on the Golden Gate Bridge at once is just like terrible.
I show mercy. I make quick.
Alright, so I had to save the Mangler for last. Especially the Black Ops 6 Mangler. All the other Manglers aren't too terrible to deal with, but man, the Black Ops, you know it's bad when there's just endless memes about the Black Ops 6 Mangler. That's how you know, like, this thing is just either annoying, annoyingly deadly, or a combination of them all, but it's something alright. Now in Gorod Krovi, Sophia actually describes the Mangler pretty accurately.
Directive log 272.5. Intelligence confirms that Project Rasputin has yielded the creation of a new enemy type we have not seen before. Dubbed the Russian Mangler soldier, these units are equipped with high-caliber armament that has proven highly effective against our ground units. Their shockwave attack disrupts movement across a large area, even when our troops are hiding in cover. Additionally, their strong armor plating has proven highly durable to conventional attacks. However, these enhanced combat abilities come at a cost. Their relatively slow speed leaves them vulnerable to being outmaneuvered by the enemy, particularly when significantly outnumbered. Additional vulnerability comes from the unit's cannon, which is prone to explode when fire is focused upon its power regulator.
I just wish this Mangler was the one we see in Black Ops 6, because the one we saw in Black Ops 3 and Black Ops Cold War was not too terrible to deal with, having a melee and a ranged attack, but not being as tanky and pretty easy to get rid of. But apparently when it came to Black Ops 6, they said, hell, spawn in 15 times more and make them way more powerful. I mean, really what makes these guys deadly is just the amount that spawn in. And the fact that they all have ranged attacks and are all just constantly shooting at you, it can get very annoying very, very fast. Now, the essential lore behind why you see Russian Manglers in Black Ops 6, I hope I get this right, is because Carver theorizes that the Dark Ether kind of has like this ranking system. If they have generals, privates, they kind of have like this quote-unquote army system. And Carver theorizes that they are believed to be high ranking. So when a dimensional outbreak would occur, and they wish to get out, it would make sense that their leaders would come out in the battle. Or at least that's the overlying theory. My knowledge in the Dark Ether storyline isn't as good as the OG storyline, but hopefully that makes sense. So you have a million generals spawning in on the map and constantly shooting at you. What's the best way to deal with them? Well, very similar to the Abomination, everything. You don't just want to focus on your gun. You want to make sure you get it upgraded. You want to make sure you get that double pap ability. Or hell, even upgrading the standard knife all the way is actually very, very effective against Manglers, only being a couple swipes and they're done. Or you can even turn into a Mangler with the mutant injection and deal with them like that. Having that melee attack is very effective against them. You just have to remember when the Mangler spawns in that your gun isn't the only weapon. You have plenty of other options to use. Now I will admit that the amount of Manglers that spawn in is way too much, and that definitely needs to be dialed back. And honestly, that is the reason why they are as deadly as they are, is just because you get a million of them spawning in on one round, it kind of makes up for it. And I believe the reason for that is because since modern Call of Duty Zombies is on dedicated servers, you can't have as many zombies spawning in. So the higher rounds you get, you can only have a certain amount of zombies spawning in per round. So they decided to, hey, let's even it out by spawning in more boss zombies. Hence, you have more Manglers. And again, you know it's bad when there's just a million memes being made about it. That is going to be the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Which boss zombie is the most deadliest to you? Let me know down there below in the comments. Also, be sure to get the plush if you have not already. You will not regret it. You can fit it in a jar if you want to, you degenerates. That's the video. Leave.